Howdy, and welcome back to the Texas Bucket List, our 20th season premiere of the Texas Bucket List. To mark this 10th anniversary of our show, we've got a special episode for you this week where we're checking off some of my favorite stops that we've done over the past decade. Next up, we head down to Galveston to set sail on one of the oldest sailing ships in the world, something we did back in 2014. On a dark, dreary April morning back in 2014, we first met the Elissa. Fresh off being repaired from damage by Hurricane Ike, getting to set sail on the official tall ship of Texas was a memorable experience, despite the overcast skies. It was so memorable, as a matter of fact, I had to do it again, but this time in the glistening sun. The glorious sight of the Elissa with her sails unfurled is one of the most amazing things you can see from the shores of Galveston Island. But being able to be on the ship as it's pulled through the surf by the power of the whipping winds is truly one of the most remarkable moments I've been able to experience on the Texas Bucket List.
Where else can you go sailing on an 1870s ship in Texas? Nowhere, just in Galveston.
Mark Skibanico is the port captain and director of the Galveston Historic Seaport. And he was his friendly self when we first visited the Elissa in Season 2 of the Texas Bucket List.
Hi!
A lot's changed since we first boarded back then, when only volunteers and invited guests got to feel the wind through their hair. Today, a few more folks get to experience it.
We changed our federal status with the U.S. Coast Guard, and we're now taking people out sailing with us as sail trainees. So a lot of the people that you see around here have purchased a ticket to come sailing with us to get the experience on board the vessel, what it was like back in the 1870s.
How cool is that to finally be able to just get pretty much anybody on board?
It's so awesome. It's something we've been working towards for a long time. The Historical Foundation put a lot of time and effort, probably 5 years worth of, just every piece of that puzzle in order to make that happen.
At over 200 feet long, with a mast that stands 100 feet above the deck, the Elissa is a magnificent mode of transportation and has been doing it since 1877. Originally built in Scotland, she's older than the Statue of Liberty and has seen ports of call all over the Atlantic, Baltic, Mediterranean, Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico.
It is my pleasure to welcome you on board Elissa's 144th year sailing on the water.
The Elissa has seen the sunrise over 52,000 times, and none of it would be possible without the crew of volunteers that makes this sail possible.
We usually are a crew of about 42. It's about 30 or 31 of the volunteers, plus the officers and a few of the staff that make up the complement.
These sailors are in charge of raising the sails and making sure the 4.5 miles of rope in the rigging is where it's supposed to be. But they also get to experience one of the best views on the ship.
It's an exhilarating feeling for sure. There's no view like it. They say that that's as close as sailors will ever get to heaven, and it definitely puts your adrenaline up, but you train for it, you practice for it, and then you get to experience it underway. It's one of the unique rewards of being a crew member.
Being on the deck was fine by me, despite a bit of an issue staying upright in choppy waters. But once the ship sets sail, it's all about the sights and lack of sounds. Seeing the skyline of Galveston Island from a few miles out while only hearing the dull roar of a conversation and the uninterrupted gusts of wind makes you wonder what it must have been like back in the day. Especially when you finally got to pull into port in Texas.
Galveston and Texas, that whole region is part of the whole region that state has stood itself up through immigration, through maritime trade, through maritime industry. And one of the things that we forget in the United States is just how valuable the waterfront is today and then, and that flow of commerce in and out of the state.
Despite the massive amount of money and time it takes to continuously operate and keep afloat this old boat, the folks at the Galveston Historic Seaport are adamant about keeping the Elissa sailing long into the future.
One of the major reasons to do this is to preserve sailing living history, right? So it's fine to do it in a vacuum or in a bubble with just yourselves, but what's the point if you're not demonstrating to the rest of the world that this is still a vibrant living piece of history?
This history lesson is well worth a stop, and one of my favorite experiences on the Texas Bucket List.
I hope today met or exceeded your expectations, and again, thank you all very much. If you have any kind of interest in sailing or maritime history, you can read about it until you're blue in the face. You can't really understand it until you experience it.